Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot, and one day I'll be your favorite Diablo 4 content creator. Now, aside from my haircut, okay, I promised in yesterday's video that I'd go through the balance updates and all that today. Okay, like I mentioned, the only reason I separated this into two videos is because there is a lot to unpack, and, you know, we are gonna have to go through that kind of brick by boring brick, so let's get started, alright? I'm not going to waste your time. Let's get right into it. First of all, we're going to talk about the Barbarian balance update. There are things in here that will adjust how you play, and I'm sort of going to go through them as best I can to highlight to you whether or not they're useful. Violent double swing vulnerable duration increased from 1 to 2 seconds, which is a welcome change. Hopefully this will allow for some build variety. Upheaval damage bonus per stack increased from 3 to 5%. I again hope that this will improve build variety. I'll be testing that. Power charge cooldown reduction now capped at 3 targets for a maximum of 9 seconds of cooldown reduction. Could potentially make things useful, could. Tactical ground stomp fury gain increased from 25 to 40. This will be very helpful in the early stages of leveling your Barbarian. Enhanced Death Blow's damage bonus to bosses increased from 100% to 150%. Again, this might make Death Blow a pretty awesome boss killer. So those of you who like builds focused around Death Blow might like to have that. Enhanced Steel Grasp vulnerable duration increased from 2.5 to 3 seconds. A minor change, but I guess again could potentially increase build variety. Enhanced Rupture's damage increased from 30% to 45%. This will probably help the Rupture Barbarians. Warrior's Rupture attack speed bonus increased from 20% to 30%, and duration increased from 4 to 5 seconds. Okay, so once again, that should help Rupture Barbarians, maybe. And the Rupture's healing is now increased from 15% to 18% max life. Yeah, could create some interesting stuff, I guess. It would certainly make Bleed Barians a better choice, potentially. So I guess that's something else to consider. Passives. Hamstring now only slows healthy enemies. The slow amount has been increased, but nobody cared about the slow amount. The point was that we could slow all enemies, therefore taking advantage of other passives. This is a major nerf, and may require some adjustment and change. Cut to the bone bleeding damage bonus to vulnerable reduced from 6, 12, 18% to 5, 10, 15%. Okay. Well, we'll have to see how this one plays out. I am thinking and sensing that the Bleed Barbarians might be the stronger class coming into the new season, but again, we'll have to see how that plays. I'll definitely test it out and try it out for myself just to see if there's any relevance to that. Yeah. Okay, in terms of Paragon, this one, I'm just gonna say the glyph that affected core skill critical damage now affects all damage. All right, so this will be a nice change for the Paragon stuff. In terms of the aspects, Relentless Berserker's aspect berserking duration increased from 1 to 2 seconds. Battle Mad aspects berserking duration was increased. Basically, a lot of the aspects had increases to duration or damage. All right. Aspect of the Iron Warrior damage reduction increased from 15 to 25% to 18 to 28. Let me just have a quick look at aspect of the Iron Warrior. All right, don't check my porn, all right? Okay, let's have a look at this. Iron Skin grants unstoppable and additional damage reduction. I mean, it could potentially be useful, all right? It could potentially be useful. I'll have to wait and see after more experimentation. Slaking aspect, lucky hit chance increased. Aspect of Ancestral Echoes, lucky hit chance increased. Weapon Master's aspect, lucky hit chance increased. Gore's devastating grips now explode every 2 seconds or after it ends, and its hit cap has been removed. Fields of Crimson bleeding damage bonus increased from 10% to 15%. Could be good. All right, all of these changes we'll have to wait and see, but some of the changes obviously will drastically affect damage. The most notable one is that the slow is only delivered to healthy enemies, which may not go over too well. All right, it's going to depend on your own damage, because if your damage is significant enough, you probably wouldn't need the slow, but it's going to affect whether or not you crit, so that is something else to consider, because it also means slower stuns on bosses. Yeah. Okay. Druid. For the Druid, what they've gotten in this patch is the following. Enhanced Claw attack speed bonus increased from 10% to 15%, so probably the Claw Druid, the Claw Stormwolf Druids will, you know, have a lot of fun there. The Storm Strike damage reduction is now reduced from 25% down to 15%. This will affect the early and mid-game leveling for Druids, so that is kind of a serious nerf. It remains to see how that'll go over, but it is going to affect Druid leveling, make no mistake. Healing is going to be far more important, so do be aware of that. Boulder damage increased from 33% to 46%. Boulder is not really used right now anyway. Savage Trample Spirit gain increased from 20 to 40. That is a useful help, so you know, that's something I'm happy with, because having more spirit is good. Prime Lacerate's healing increased from 3 to 5%. So that could be helpful. If I recall, that's for Shred Druids. Cataclysm lightning damage increased, so this will probably help the early and mid-game leveling again. Supreme Cataclysm vulnerable duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds. Again, a boost to early and mid-game. Prime Cataclysm duration increased from 2 to 4 seconds. Again, a boost to early and mid-game. Prime Grizzly Rage now grants Unstoppable for 6 seconds instead of while active. This is a nerf, because obviously, as I mentioned in the previous video, the game seems to want to move away from the long Unstoppables, but it will also result in less PvP domination for the Druids. So this one is going to be one that people have to think about, because it will affect your overall damage. Yeah. Provocation threshold required for guaranteed overpower reduced from 35, 30, 25 to 24, 20, 16 seconds. Okay. Spirit boons. Masochistic now also requires a lucky hit chance of 75% to proc. Yeah. Prickle Skin Thorns increased from 0.1 to 0.15. Okay, but again, Prickle Skin Thorns weren't very useful to the Druid. Iron Feather maximum life increased from the previous 10%, now it's 14%. Bolster Fortify increased from 10% to 15% of maximum life, and Overload damage increased from 0.2 to 0.25. Okay. This glyph thing is the same thing I mentioned for the Barbarian. In terms of aspects, Aspect of the Calm Breeze, lucky hit chance increased from 5 to 10 to 7 to 12. Balanced Aspect, maximum spirit increased from 30 to 50 to 60 to 80 now. Aspect of the Tempest, damage bonus increased from 7 to 15 to 10 to 18. Skinwalker's Aspect, I always get creeped out by that name, 0.05 to 0.1 is now to 0.07 to 0.12. Symbiotic Aspect cooldown reduction reduced from 48 to 3 to 5. Okay. Aspect of the Stampede damage bonus increased from 10 to 20 to 16 to 26. Shepherd's damage bonus increased from 6 to 8% to 6 to 10%. In terms of items, Insatiable Fury Werebear skill ranks is increased from 2 to 3, and Mad Wolf's Glee Werewolf skill ranks increased from 2 to 3. This is very good for Pulverized Werebears going into the new season. If you want to keep up with the Pulverized Werebear build, this will probably be of great help to you. Okay. But they will probably still suffer from a lack of vulnerable damage, so that's an area that remains a concern and should be considered before going into that. I myself will be trying a variety of things because I just hate the reliance on uniques. It traumatizes me. Okay, for the Necromancer, here are the changes for the class. Initiates Decompose Slow is now increased from 30% to 50%. Yeah. Paranormal Sever casts required for vulnerable is reduced from 4 to 3. Sorry, 1 second. Had to answer a quick message. Paranormal Sever cast required for vulnerable reduced from 4 to 3. This is a buff overall, okay? And it will probably be better for the shadow builds. I know that even before the season, some shadow builds were coming up. So shadow builds are going to be pretty interesting in the new season, I think. That said, you know, I'm still going to be sticking with Bone Spear because it's simple, straightforward, and doesn't really require anything. Speaking of that, you will see, I'm pretty sure the Bone Spear stuff will be covered a bit later, the nerfs to it anyway. All right, Enhanced Blood Surge healing increased from 2.5 to 3% of maximum life. Enhanced Blood Lance damage reduction for piercing reduced from 15% to 10%. Okay. This one is Enhanced Blood Lance damage reduction for piercing reduced from 15% to 10%, meaning that after it pierces the target, each subsequent target took 15% less damage. It's been reduced, so this is actually a buff, just so you know. Bone Prison initial essence gained increased from 15 to 25, okay. Abhorrent Iron Maiden healing increased from 5 to 7%. Probably still not going to be used. Golems move faster and unhindered through enemies when their cooldown is activated. This will be helpful for my particular Bone Spear Necro. Supreme Blood Wave leaves behind blood orbs earlier in its path. I guess for blood necros, you can enjoy that. Raised Skeleton, Corpse Explosion, and Corpse Tendrils range for auto-targeting corpses on mouse and keyboard is increased by 50%. This is probably going to be very helpful. And so far it has been. Raised Skeleton, Skeletal Priest bonus damage increased from 20 to 30%. And the Priest healing from 10 to 15%. Again, this will be very useful for the early and mid-game leveling. But not so useful unless you're going hardcore minion build, yeah? Okay, passives. Evulsion bonus damage to vulnerable reduced from 6, 12, 18 to 5, 10, 15%. Okay, so there's a nerf overall to your passive, which is fine because this mostly affects the Bone Spear build. However, it's still damn strong. Transfusion minion healing increased from 15, 30, 45 to 20, 40, 60. This is for blood builds that make use of minions. Again, probably not something you would use since you'd probably spec pure minion almost if you're going down that way. Drain Vitality, Lucky Hit Chance increased from 25% to 30%. And Amplify Damage increased from previously 369 to 4812. This is a damage increase for Shadow Necros again. In terms of the Book of the Dead, Necromancer's minions will now automatically resummon after respawning during a world boss fight. Skeleton Warrior Defenders upgrade Thorns inherited. So for the Skeleton Warriors, they now inherit 50% of Thorns instead of 40%. Shadow Skeleton Mages, for their additional Shadow Bolt, it's been reduced from the previous 5, now down to 4. Bone Skeleton Mage upgrade Fortify amount is increased from 11 to 20%. This will again help the Bone Spear Necro in the early stages of leveling. Iron Golems upgrade attacks required for Slam Attack reduced from the previous 5 down to 4. But the Iron Golem is probably not going to be used except for... and the Slam Attack is probably not going to be used because you'd be giving up Vulnerable. Which is really not a good idea. The Vulnerable on that is too useful, so yeah. That will... like, the Iron Golem is probably still going to remain for minion builds. The Essence Glyph thing is the same thing I mentioned for the Barbarian and the Druid. Aspects. Okay, this is a nerf to the Bone Spear build, but I've tested it and it's not that severe. I was still clearing within the content range that is expected, okay, of the new leveling system, as I mentioned in my previous video. So Splintering Aspects Bone Shard damage, previously it was 50 to 100, now it's reduced to 30 to 60, alright? But slap it on a two-handed weapon, which you should, two-handed sword, FYI, you can still get up to 120% damage increase, and it would, like, pierce through. So keep that in mind. Aspect of Plunging Darkness, bonus damage increase from 50 to 100 to 75 to 125. This is again for Shadow Necros. Coldbringer's Aspect Blizzard cooldown reduced from 10 to 8 seconds for minion Necros. Aspect of the Hungry Blood chance to fire a Blood Lance increased from 10 to 20% to 13 to 23%. This is for Blood Necros. Blood-Soaked Aspect damage increased from 0.15 to 0.2. Now it's 0.24 to 0.31, so that's a big increase overall. Ultimate shadow damage increased from 0.16 to 0.22, now almost doubled to, in fact, possibly more than doubled. Yeah, more than doubled. 0.43 to 0.48. Aspect of Grasping Veins critical strike damage. This is the second nerf for Bone Necros and several other Necros that make use of Corpse Tendrils because of the vulnerable and the incredible increase to critical strike damage. Okay, it's now reduced from 30 to 60% down to 20 to 40%. Again, it will still pump you up by quite a bit, so Bone Spear Necros are still very strong. Osseous Gale, aspect bonus, Bone Storm duration is now increased from the previous 4 to 8, now to 5 to 10 seconds. This can be pretty useful if you happen to go down the Bone Storm pathway, so do keep that in mind, alright? It can be pretty useful. Aspect of the Damned, bonus damage bonus increased from 30 to 40% to 40 to 50%, alright? This one is also pretty damn good. But it depends on whether you use it or not. Okay, because that is a, if I'm not wrong, a 20% increase on the higher range. So these increases, I guess they're trying to bring up the stuff that is not used often, but whether it actually gets used, that'll remain to be seen. Blood-Bathed Aspect Echo damage reduction reduced from 70 to 60% to 60 to 50%. So basically for those Blood Nova Necros, this the Echo damage received a buff, so you guys are in a better situation than you were before. Consider that. Aspect of Reanimation Skeletons, damage bonus increased from 20 to 30% to 30 to 40%. Okay. In terms of the items, Deathless Visage damage increased from 0.25 to 0.35 to 0.28 to 0.38, so slight increase. Bloodless Scream Essence gained increased from 2 to 5 to 7 to 10, like literally a double and more than double at the low end. So yeah, they're trying to bring up the stuff that is not used as often. All right, so you can see that the bone builds were brought down and all the other builds were sort of raised up to try and compete. Okay, in terms of the rogue, okay, here we go. Here are the balance changes for the rogue. Advanced rapid fire duration increased from 3 to 5 seconds. Caltrops cast speed increased by 15%. Okay, this will help those that are using Caltrops in their builds. Okay, advanced rapid fire duration increased from 3 to 5 seconds. That's helpful if you are a rapid fire rogue. Enhanced cold imbued lucky hit chance increased from 30% to 40%. Enhanced smoke grenade damage bonus increased from 15% to 20%. Methodical dash maximum cooldown reduction increased from 3 to 4 seconds. Concealment stealth duration increased from 4 to 5 seconds, helpful for trapper rogues. Enhanced Dark Shroud's chance to not be consumed increased from 10% to 14%. Supreme Death Trap cooldown reduction increased from 10 to 12 seconds. Okay. Now, in terms of your passives, Victimize lucky hit chance increased from 30 to 35%. Siphoning Strikes now also require a lucky hit chance of 75%, so alternative forms of healing are probably going to be much more important now. Rugged damage reduction against damage over time effects increase from 5, 10, 15 to 6, 12, 18. Okay. Mending obscurity healing per second while stealth increased from 3, 6, 9 to 4, 8, 12. Okay. So you will heal more when stealthed. So stealth is probably going to be the main form of rogue healing as opposed to siphoning strikes. This will probably lead to trapper rogues becoming more popular, and we're going to be testing a build that centers around that. I'm actually quite excited to try that. Aftermath energy restored increased from 25, 50, 75 to 30, 60, 90. Okay. Combat glyphs bonus now applies to all damage. This one is the same for all the other 3 classes. Eldritch Bounty's legendary node duration increased from 6 to 9 seconds. All right, so if I recall, this is a pretty good one. Eldritch Bounty. Please do not look at my porn. Yeah. So, what does this do? Yeah, when you attack with an imbued skill, you gain 20% resistance and 20% increased damage for that imbuement's element for 9 seconds. Okay. So for those of you, hint, hint, poison, this can be helpful. Yeah. in terms of specialization, Preparation's ultimate cooldown reduction is now increased from the previous 4 to 5 seconds. So spam your ultimates, i.e., you know, as much as you want. Again, benefit to Trapper Rogues. Yeah. Legendary aspects. Aspect of Volatile Shadows damage increased from 0.1075 to 0.193. And now it's 0.2 up to 0.27. So almost a doubling there. Icy Alchemist's aspect chill increased from 15% to 25%. Shadow Slicer's aspect increased from the previous 25 to 35%, now to 80 to 100%. So they're trying to make Shadow Slicer highly viable for dash, and it was pretty good because you could basically slow and then daze in an AoE. So it was pretty useful, I'm not gonna lie. This might actually create new playstyles for, just so you know, it might create a newer playstyle for the... It might create a new playstyle for the... What was it? The Twisting Blades Rogue, actually. So those going Twisting Blades will probably want their Shadow Slicer aspect. It's actually going to be pretty useful. Even at the lowest base amount of 80%, that can be a huge help. So think about that. Because the double dash... dash basically was not an engage before. Now it is. So you can, rather than using it as an escape, you can use it as a dash in, then stun the most key elite, kill him, and then dash back out. So that might be a better way of using dash. Again, this is something that I might be very interested in testing out. You know, I think it's gonna be pretty crazy overall. Yeah. Toxic Alchemist's damage increase from 0.08 to 0.13 up to 0.11, so 0.11 to 0.16. That's pretty good. Vengeful Aspect Lucky Hit Chance increased from 30 to 50 to 40 to 60. Aspect of Imitated Imbuement's duration increased from 5 to 9 seconds. Aspect of Stolen Vigor Healing increased from 0.02 to 0.06 to 0.4 to 0.8. Nice. Aspect of Lethal Dusk Life or Kill duration increased from 4 to 6 seconds. Aspect of Noxious Ice bonus damage increased from 10 to 25% to 14 to 29%. Aspect of Elusive Menace Dodge Chance increased from 1 to 5% to 3 to 7%. Not bad. Rogues, they seem to be wanting to buff rogues, and with changes to stealth, honestly, I'm pretty impressed. Maybe the melee rogue won't be so bad, you know, anymore, because my primary concern last time was getting CC'd to hell. But now, that might change nicely. That might change very nicely. Especially with the change to Shadow Slicer, because this will basically guarantee... I had used it for a short time, but that will basically guarantee a daze on an AoE of enemies. Worth considering. Sky Hunter's energy gain increased from 15 to 25 to 20 to 30. Grasp of Shadow Lucky Hit Chance increased from 20 to 30 to 24 to 34. Sorcerer. Okay, now to unpack the thing that everybody is upset about. You guys ready? Okay, Enhanced Charge Bolts damage increased from 24 to 30% and now benefits from skill ranks, so yay. This is pretty good. Destructive Charge Bolts damage reduction increased from 20% to 25%. So if you want to go down the pathway of using Charge Bolts for damage reduction, you can do that. Destructive Incinerate damage reduction increased from 20 to 25%. The Ice Blade's cast cleanup has been tightened, allowing players to act after it's cast sooner. Firebolt initial damage increased from 10% to 18%. Wizard's Firewall maximum increased mana regeneration increased from 25 to 35%. Wizard's Blizzard core mana skill cost reduction increased from 10% to 20%. Supreme Deep Freeze cooldown reduction increased from 50% to 100%. So Supreme Deep Freeze will instantly cool down all your skills. So the Ice Shard Sorcerer may be doing better with this one. Elemental Dominance now affects mastery skills instead of just core skills, so that's useful. Potent Warding duration increased from 3 to 9 seconds, but people still aren't going to use that because resistances don't matter. Protection barrier duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds. This one's actually useful. Align the elements damage reduction per second increased from 123 to 369, which should be helpful, but again, depends on whether you want to use that or not. Mana shield damage reduction increased from 5, 10, 15 to 7, 14, 21. Again, pretty useful, but it's for spammers to use. Right, so you burst all your mana in one shot to hit hard and then dip. So yeah, for the lightning sorcerers, this will be important. Devouring Blaze bonus critical strike damage reduced from 10, 20, 30 to 7, 14, 21. This is in line with the changes to critical strike damage overall. Devouring Blaze bonus critical strike damage to immobilized reduced from previous 25, 50, 75, now down to 10, 20, 30. Okay, so be aware of that. Fiery Surge mana regeneration increased from 10, 20, 30 to 15, 30, 45. So you can regenerate more mana, I guess. Paragon. Destruction Glyph now affects all damage. Okay, same as, all the other classes. Enchantments. Spark Enchantment chance to form Crackling Energy increased from 10 to 14%. But nobody really uses Spark. Frozen Orb Enchantment chance to be cast increased from 20% to 30%. Might help Frost Sorcerers. Incinerate Enchantment cooldown reduced from 18 to 14 seconds. Don't know if that'll help. Maybe Fire Sorcerers. Hydra Enchantment mana threshold reduced from 300 to 200. Again, probably will help the Fire Sorcerers more than anyone else. I mean, I'm hoping a Fire Sorcerer build can work really well in Season 1. I'd love to see that. Legendary Aspects. Aspect of Efficiency mana cost reduction is now increased. Previously 10 to 20, now it's 15 to 25, and it also affects Mastery skills. So, those of you thinking Blizzard or some of the other stuff like Firewall could be helpful. Aspect of Armageddon damage increased from 0.205 to 0.25 up to 0.35 to 0.4. Aspect of Shadow Stars, basically a lot of damage increases for most of the aspects. Serpentine Aspect Hydra duration reduction is now reduced, so the Hydra build Fire Sorcerers will have their Hydras. You can have, like, I think it's the one that gives you, I'll just check. Serpentine Aspect. Da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, so this is the one that gives you one additional Hydra, but the active duration was reduced by 30 to 20. Now it's down to 20 to 10. So you can have 2 Hydras and they'll just last 10% shorter. So pretty good, especially if you want to run Hydra build. Again, not sure if that'll work really well, but I look forward to seeing Fire Sorcerers, what they come up with. Glacial Aspect Ice Spikes bonus damage to Frozen reduced from 25% to 15%. Glacial Aspect Ice Spikes damage increased from 0.2 to 0.3 up to 0.25 to 0.35. Aspect of Frozen Tundra Ice Spikes damage increased 0.25 to 0.35 up to 0.3 to 0.4. Aspect of Frozen Wake Ice Spikes damage increased from previously 0.2 to 0.3. Now it's up to 0.25 to 0.35. And Chill has been increased from 10% to 15%. Aspect of Biting Cold chance to apply vulnerable to frozen enemies increased from the previous 25 to 35% to 30 to 40%. So this might be helpful once again for Ice Shard builds and for Frost builds in general, because vulnerable is still crucial. Encased Aspect Life and Mana Restore per second increased from 10 to 20% to 20 to 30%. So let's have a look at the Encased Aspect. I'm pretty sure this is the one that is used by Ice Shard Sorcerers again. So while Deep Freeze is active, restore, per second. Okay. So yes, that is the one that will benefit your Deep Freeze. Again, it's used mostly as a heal if you get into trouble, but you can actually do this in other ways, so you don't have to go this way. Alright, you can save your aspects for other stuff if you want to. Stable Aspect chance for free cast increased from 5 to 10%. Now it's up to 7 to 12%. The Stable Aspect is very, very useful for lightning builds. And again, it's something that will probably feature in my my upcoming Sorcerer gameplay. Like, there's so many pathways we can go now. I find it very interesting. But basically, shock skills will have a chance to trigger unstable currents even when it's not active. So this is pretty useful, assuming you can find it fast. Aspect of Splintering Energy, chance to spawn an additional Lightning Spear increased from the previous 11 to 20% up to 41 to 50%. And Aspect of Broken Tether, chance for additional lightning chain lightning chains is now increased from the previous 25 to 35% up to 30 to 40%. Okay. But again, chain lightning was not very useful until past the mid game. I actually went with the charge bolts just because I could spam it into directly into an elite and kill them fast. Okay, in terms of the items, Gloves of the Illuminator Fireball damage reduction is reduced from 65 to 75, now down to 55 to 65. Essus Heirloom critical strike chance for movement speed increased, previously 15 to 25, now it's 20 to 30. So still a very good item to have. Okay, so grab it. Essadora's Overflowing Cameo, chance to release a Lightning Nova, increased from the previous 10% to 15%. Sorry, increased from the previous 10% up to 15%. Okay, now, I know that was long for the class section. Now we're going to get into the big changes. So each of the classes has been talked about. Now we're going to have to talk about the changes to the aspects. And this one is where a lot of people got very, very angry. So let's go through that. 1 second, yeah? Okay, sorry about that. Like I said, this video is long, so I had to really attend to an important text message. Anyway, here is what has upset people in terms of these aspects. Disobedience, maximum stacks reduced from 100 to 60, which reduces the maximum bonus armor percentage from the previous 25 to 50%. It's now down to 15 to 30. This is still one of your most necessary aspects, but you have to understand that within the current leveling system, this is sufficient. Where it's going to affect you most is once you hit level 100 and you're trying to push the nightmares to the final tiers. This is where it's really going to collapse on you. So actually, I disagree with this change completely. I think it is absolutely trash. But why they did it, I don't know. They should have just nerfed damage reduction and not this. But instead they nerfed both. So I don't know what the plan is here. I have no answer for you, but what I can say is that it won't affect the leveling process. It will only affect the end game, all right? Aspect of Retribution, bonus damage to stunned, reduced from the previous 20 to 40%, and now it's only 10 to 20%. Aspect of Retribution was very useful, especially on the Hammer Bar build, because when you hit a stun on the enemy, you could really smack them for, the full damage, but now you can't do that anymore, so #sad. Exploiter's Aspect, damage bonus to Unstoppable, reduced from the previous 20 to 50. It's now 20 to 40, so the maximum has been reduced, but most people were running around 30%, so you shouldn't see too much of a change from this. But again, it affects the end game rather than the leveling process. Starlight Aspect, Resource Restore is increased. Previously used to be 10 to 20. I've actually never used this, so let me just have a quick look at it. This one is a legendary aspect. Oh, it's for every 25% of your life that you heal. Yeah, this is why I never used it. It was totally useless to me. In terms of items, the Butcher's Cleaver slow has been increased from the previous 40 to 75, and it's now up to 61 to 75. Drop rate adjustments, increased bonus to drop ancestral and sacred items in Nightmare Dungeons. Now, previously it was 5%, now it's 10%, so you should be getting more ancestral and sacred items in Nightmare Dungeons. But please keep in mind that you will no longer find loot far above your level. This was nerfed in the previous patch video, as I talked about. This is the item loot changes, okay? So just be aware of that. They removed a 20% chance to drop an extra equipment item from elite monsters outside of Nightmare Dungeons and Helltide. Basically, they want you to be in Nightmare Dungeons for your best loot. but they've increased the chance to drop an extra equipment item from elite monsters in Nightmare Dungeons and Helltide, okay, by 10%. So normal dungeons are now like, you know, normal dungeons, open world, no longer good for farming. Nightmare Dungeons Helltide will now be the ideal for farming elite monsters, yeah? Nightmare Dungeons also now have a 50% chance to drop a second legendary item upon completion. I've talked about this. And they now give 3 rare items upon completion. Previously, they used to give 1. So you're at least guaranteed 4 items at the end of a Nightmare Dungeon. 1 will be legendary, 3 will be rare. And you have a chance to gain 5, all right? Where 2 are legendary, 3 are rare, okay? They've increased monster hit point scaling in a party. So every extra member of your party will increase monster hit points by 100%. Be aware of this. Miscellaneous. Adjusted the scaling of the Greed Shrine to improve its effectiveness throughout the game. World bosses now drop potions more often. There is no longer a limit to how many materials you can refine into higher materials at once, okay? In terms of the item affixes, okay? Many affixes were too efficient and were outshining alternatives. So what does this mean? I'm going to give it to you straight. They have reduced the vulnerable and critical damage affixes, okay? They've also decreased the the base stat affix, which nobody used anyway, okay? The core stat bonus on weapons has been overperforming, so we're pulling back on this bonus. Like, what? Nobody even used those in the first place unless you had no other option, but whatever, okay? Guess it overperformed somehow, so there you go. Probably for the Barbarian, but again, this is a direct nerf to the Barbarians because the strength directly benefited both their armor and their damage, and they didn't actually need that much extra damage. So, for example, damage to close, strength, damage to crit, damage to vulnerable. This was a very good combination before. Now it's like, not as good because the strength would have given you extra armor, so I guess that's what they don't want. It used to be 50% bonus, now it's down to 25, okay? They've also nerfed the cooldown reduction. Okay, so the modifiers still exist, but now they're 30% less than they were before. Critical strike damage nerfed by 17%, vulnerable damage nerfed by 40%. What this is talking about is the affix itself. So for example, previously the affix could have said like 30 to 50% vulnerable damage. Now it'll be nerfed by 40%. So 40% of 30, minus 24. Hang on, wait, sorry. My math, bad. 3 times 4, 12 minus that. So now it'll go like 18 to 60% of 50. You know, when previously it was like 30 to 50. Now it'll be like 18% to... I should know this math. 18 to 30. There we go. I knew I wasn't dumb. All right. I had to do the calculation in my head, but basically, yeah, major nerf to this. Again, I have to put it in context. So this will keep within the standards of the leveling process, but it hurts the end game. Okay. The inherent critical strike damage and vulnerable damage modifiers, which are innate on swords and crossbows, respectively, have been absolutely trashed as well. Because these weapons, you know, they wanted to increase weapon flexibility. This is not going to increase weapon flexibility. We're still going to pick these weapons because these are the only ways to increase the previously nerfed amounts. FYI, this isn't going to help. This is not going to help because none of the other affixes matter, okay? Damage bonus to crowd control enemies was overperforming relative to the ease of activating, and it versus stricter crowd control type specific, so that has been nerfed, which again, dumb. But damage to frozen enemies has been increased, so there's that. Again, ice builds are getting a buff up. Take note. Okay. So, developers' note is that we've seen that skillful players are frequently slaughtering monsters many levels above their own. We want to support this, but the current situation is beyond what we believe is correct for the long-term health of the game. To chase this goal, we're shifting power to many offensive affixes from defensive affixes. We know this will make our endgame content more deadly, particularly for those chasing our pinnacle boss. Overcoming the pinnacle boss will take every ounce of grit you can muster and all tools at your disposal. We'll continue to evaluate feedback from the community and make changes to our combat mechanics. But basically, all of this is an increase, except to here. Okay, so all these skill damage stuff, werebear, werewolf skill damage, all right, this is all good. These innate damage types have been increased, which is good. So if you're building a lightning sorcerer, please look for lightning damage, since this will now perform better as an affix, and you're going to need that, yeah? All right. Non-physical damage, all this kind of stuff is going to be useful to you. But the problem is that they've also done the following, which is very, very dumb. They have reduced total armor by 30% overall. This is very bad. Okay. I'm pretty sure this is referring to the percentage affix. So again, not a great idea. Total armor in werebear and werewolf form all reduced, so druids are going to suffer a lot more in season 1, which is why Stormwolf is probably the better path to go, because pulverized werebear was famed for its tankiness. That is no longer going to be your strength. Be aware of that. The damage reduction from close enemies, distant enemies reduced by 20%. All the other types reduced by 25%, so these are the additional types that I mentioned. But now it's going to be literally crucial to get close distant damage reduction on your chest and pants, and then get total armor and max life as well in order to survive. That's going to be god roll defensive gear right now, because all the other stuff is like, unless you can continuously inflict this stuff, like for the sorcerer, damage versus burning is still going to damage reduction versus burning versus total armor is going to be more useful, but you're still going to need a max life roll, so that's a problem. Okay, but yeah, that's about it. They've taken off all these damage affixes for no good reason. Anyway, that is the breakdown of the balance changes. This is a 41-minute long video because it is truly, truly problematic. I've gone through everything, given my thoughts. I'm going to give you my thoughts in summary now. Okay, for those of you that skipped over this whole video, I'm going to tell you my thoughts right now. I'm going to say this much. Within what we have tested for the leveling process, everything is fine, because you're only supposed to take on monsters a maximum of 10 levels above you, which will be easily done via the builds that we are going to present in Season 1. This much I have already determined and, presented. And I've said as much, and we will demonstrate this live on stream without difficulty. However, what I am going to say is that for those of you pushing and chasing the end game, this is problematic. This is very problematic, and me and my clan and community are going to try and figure out a way to do better with this, but just be aware that your end game pushing is going to suck until they fix this, because the damage reduction was the major problem for all characters. We weren't suffering from the amount of damage we were dealing. We were fine with that. We were dealing excessive amounts of damage, which fine. You want to nerf that? Okay, go ahead. You know what? Take that away from me. Fine. But taking away our survival is a problem, because there's no invulnerability frame. It's not like, look, evasion in this game does not work the same way that it does in freaking Monster Hunter. All right, nor does it work the same way that it does in several other games with a dodge mechanic. The dodge usually has certain iframes. Here, the iframes are very short, and this is not that sort of game. We have a cooldown and one charge on our evade. You know, you do realize that other games have a stamina bar, and you can roll as many times during that stamina bar by perfectly timing attacks. There's no tells in this game. This isn't a Souls-like. We don't have a parry. So what's the big idea here? My biggest problem is with the damage reductions, because it's going to affect people at level 100. Okay? And I feel almost as if they're trying to say, get to level 100, finish the season, and then stop playing our game until next season. Why they had this mentality going into this, I don't know, because you want the people at level 100 to keep pushing until they hit the level 100 nightmare dungeons. They're not going to be able to now. Not without super tricked out gear. So you're trying to increase the grind for them? Not a smart long-term business strategy. So, look, you want to reduce our damage? Fine, I can get over that. I can get around that easily. Easily. I don't care about damage. This part needs to be absolutely reversed, because this part is dumb. This is a silly decision. It's like, yeah, you know what? You guys get, you know what? You be hitting monsters way above your level. You know, they was killing you so easily before, but you know what? You know what? Screw you. You're not supposed to do that anymore. Then what are we supposed to do when we hit level 100 and we're barely doing nightmare dungeons at like what, level tier 60? Like, it's going to be a struggle hitting that for most people that don't have tricked out gear, and you're going to be stuck at level 100 just doing that. Because at that point, the leveling no longer matters, right? So at that point, what, you're just going to keep churning that for tricked out gear? That's not how this game is supposed to work. And nobody's going to be playing it at level 100. We're going to get our characters there. Then we're going to say, yeah, what, screw it, we're done. You know, we did it. We hit level 100. Leveling game over. I've made my videos. I'm going to go play Exoprimal. That's what's going to happen. There's Exoprimal, First Descendant, Synced, a lot of other games are coming out with looter shooter ARPG type grinds. Path of Exile 2, your biggest competitor, is also coming out. And as much as I don't like Path of Exile, if Path of Exile 2 turns into a clone of Diablo but does things better, all your players are going to go over there because it's probably going to be free. So take note. Take note. That could happen. Okay, and these are my thoughts on the matter. Reverse the armor changes ASAP. Nobody cares about the damage changes because that one can be adjusted for, okay? And I'll teach you guys how to adjust for that in Season 1. But the armor changes, the damage reduction changes are bad news because we literally cannot push the end game without this stuff, okay? Okay, great. I'm glad I'm clear on that. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm so sorry it was super long, but there was a lot to break down, and that's why I broke it down into 2 parts because I did a run through yesterday, and I was like, nope, this is going to go over an hour if I don't break this up into 2 pieces. So, yeah, here you go. First of all, I'm going to give my thanks to our biggest supporters. All right, we've got several people to give thanks to, and I want them all known. Okay, so our July's Big Wig supporters are Zane Hoagland as our top tipper. Other top tippers are Bravo7910 and Jason Leaving. Our top super chatter is Zane Hoagland once again. And our top membership gifters, Sabingu, Mike Cawthorn. Our top super chatters are Chris Muck, Mike Cawthorn, River Archer, Kenzo, and Ray's Reality. Thank you guys so much. And now thank you to our channel members who make all of the shenanigans possible. Here are the big wigs that are always supporting me. Starting at Plus Ultra, Death Dawning 982, we've got Jerry Fast, OG, Rogue Assassin, Zach, and of G at Prestige. Thank you guys so much for always maintaining and supporting me. Thank you. Corey Ryu, Marcel, Kaishiwa, Bob John, Maxim Lotz, Devin Lashin, Mookie Mocha, Rena, Chase Taylor, Nathan Strong, Sabingu, Lady Neo, Joey Danze, Dar Reverse, Che D12, I'm Peeps, Sayed Assad, Code CMF, Kami SMH, Conrad C, Nate the Great, and Benjamin Savage. Thank you guys so much. These are my honored robots. Thank you to all of our cool and weird bots as well. I love y'all. Thank you for putting up with this long ass video. I'm gonna see you guys on the next one, okay? Y'all have a good one. Get you later.